Good Wednesday morning. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Lauren Lemanchek. Happening today, emergency help is rolling in for some Minnesota federal workers in just a few hours. Now, 1 month into the government shutdown. Audrey Russo is at MSP this morning with details on how a new food bank might help.
Air traffic controllers and TSA workers are working around their very first week of receiving a $0 paycheck. Now, these emergency food donations are going to be distributed in the Silver Ramp here at MSP between 11 and 1 p.m. and that is all courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland. And these federal workers are really just a small slice of the folks who are going to be impacted when SNAP benefits end next month because of the government shutdown. Minnesota is joining 24 other states in suing the Trump administration, seeking a temporary restraining order to block USDA from ending the program. Governor Walz has allocated $4 million to continue SNAP in the meantime, but Minnesotans we spoke to tell us they've already seen their benefits cut.
You know, I feel like most of the time I'm spending is just figuring out how to survive. And it's not just food, it's on several levels, but the lack of food causes like all the other problems to be worse. And that's a really real thing.
This is now the second longest government shutdown in U.S. history. This time next week, literally Wednesday of next week, it'll become the longest. Back to you.
This ongoing shutdown is also causing delays in heating assistance for Minnesotans. The Minnesota Department of Commerce says they usually get 90% of their money by early November, but it's on hold. The program helps with heating bills, emergency fuel deliveries, and furnace repairs over the winter. The department says eligible households should still apply for the funding, and they'll get it when the money is available. Right now, there is still no sign of a deal to reopen the government, and thousands of government workers are taking the brunt of the impacts. Meanwhile, President Trump is in South Korea this morning, the last leg on his trip to Asia. The president is preparing for tomorrow's meeting there with Chinese President Xi Jinping, where he hopes to de-escalate trade tensions between the two nations. NBC's Tracy Wilkins has the details from Washington.
Day 29 of the shutdown, Congress still doesn't have a deal, and the world is watching as President Trump prepares to talk trade and government relations with China's president. South Korea, the last stop on President Donald Trump's tour of Asia, as he prepares to meet with China's President Xi. Trump is saying a new era of trade is on the horizon, offering some optimism after months of a tense trade war with China. The world is watching to see if talks between the two world leaders can cool tensions.
You know that President Xi of China is coming tomorrow here, and we're going to be, I hope, making a deal. I think we're going to have a deal. I think it'll be a good deal for both.
But in the U.S., the government is far from a deal that will end the government shutdown.
The motion upon reconsideration is not agreed to.
The Senate failed to advance a Republican-backed funding bill yesterday. As we enter day 29, both parties continue the blame game.
And so 42 million people are going to suffer because they're playing political games.
25 states and the District of Columbia are suing the administration to prevent SNAP food benefits from running out this week, arguing that the USDA is legally required to keep using emergency funds.
I challenge Republicans to support use of contingency funds for SNAP benefits. What Donald Trump is doing, and Republicans in Congress are supporting him, is making this shutdown as cruel and painful as possible.
This as furloughed federal workers struggle without the checks they earned.
I'm simply a federal worker trying to do a job and bring home a paycheck for my family.
My utilities come, they're due. My car note is due. My insurance is due. It's hard.
Back over to President Trump's Asia trip, he hinted to reporters that he would have liked to have a conversation with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and was willing to extend his trip in Asia to do so. President Trump now confirming that the two will not meet, saying we'll have other visits. Trump made history during his first administration, being the first U.S. president to step foot in North Korea. In Washington, I'm Tracy Wilkins, NBC News.
As Minneapolis teachers prepare for a possible strike, the school board's dealing with a, quote, financial crisis, drafting their next budget. The board chair says to right the ship, everything is on the table. At the school board's finance meeting last night, they addressed a $25 million shortfall for 2026 to 2027. Experts say financial problems date back to at least 2020. especially driven by declining enrollment. They say a flawed plan to reconfigure school boundaries and falling birth rates aren't helping. The city audit says 29,000 students are enrolled when MPS could serve 40,000, and that's expected to drop another 6,000 in 2 years.
If you have 2 principals, 2 nurses, 2 PE teachers, 2 counselors, that's a lot of resources before you've even started putting teachers in there. And so that's why having a lot of small schools isn't super great.
The board has to approve a budget by June. Tomorrow they'll meet for another mediation with the union. Right now, U of M police are asking for help identifying this person they believe may be involved in a brutal assault on a student. The assault happened September 20th, just before 10 p.m. at 4th Street Southeast and 16th Avenue Southeast in Minneapolis. Police say surveillance video captured the suspect hitting the victim multiple times. Anyone with information is asked to call U of M police. More than 800 people are waking up this morning with no job. They learned yesterday morning their position was cut in the big Target layoff. Locally, 528 employees at headquarters in Minneapolis were laid off, and another 287 from the Brooklyn Park office. Target employees say the layoffs appeared to be spread out, with nearly every team losing at least one person. Target's incoming CEO said overlapping work was slowing decisions. Target's not the only major company laying off workers right now. Amazon's cutting at least 14,000 corporate employees. The company says it must be organized more leanly in light of changes brought by artificial intelligence. This morning, St. Paul police are investigating the vandalism of dozens of trees planted by student workers. Tree Trust is a nonprofit teaching young people forestry skills, and it helps grow the Twin Cities urban forest. Last week, 32 trees planted by St. Paul high schoolers were sawed in half. The trees were planted last fall along Shepherd Road, just south of the High Bridge. This mirrors a similar incident from last year when vandals uprooted nearly 60 trees along that same stretch of road. Tree Trust CEO says the vandalism will not overshadow this organization's mission.
To steward the earth, to help improve people's lives and give them opportunities. We're training that next generation of workers.
The Parks and Rec Department says it could cost more than $20,000 to replant all the trees between materials, labor, and maintenance. And the city says it doesn't have the money for it. St. Paul police say they've made no arrests in either incident. Developing this morning, Hurricane Melissa made landfall in Cuba as an extremely dangerous Category 3 storm. Melissa already causing severe flooding in the streets there, as you can see from this new video overnight. The storm, the size of Texas, has weakened since devastating Jamaica yesterday and is considered one of the strongest storms in Atlantic hurricanes history. This video just in this morning from Jamaica shows entire neighborhoods underwater and roads completely washed away. Back here at home, the owner of Pimento Jamaican Kitchen tells us he's nervous, knowing how strong the storm was, but he believes the people will recover.
Jamaican people they're the definition of resilience, and this hurricane is going to test that resilience, but I'm very proud that Jamaicans will know how to step up and support each other.
Tommy Beavis is partnering with the Minnesota National Guard to deliver aid to Jamaica. He has donation barrels set up at all 3 Pimento Kitchen locations and other Caribbean restaurants. They'll be taking donations until next Tuesday. We're in the final stretch to the Olympic Games in Milan and Cortina, just 100 days out this morning. The Winter Olympics are huge for our state. Curling, hockey, skiing. Minnesota has a history of bringing home the gold. Michelle is here now with a big interview and a look at how the host cities are getting ready to welcome the world.
Before we get to our sit down with Lindsey Vaughn, let's talk about what's going on right now. This interactive map is live on the official Olympics website. We've got all these venues across northern Italy. I'm told they're still getting their finishing touches, but organizers there say everything will be finished on time. Take a look right here. These venues are absolutely gorgeous. Since the Winter Olympic Games debuted in 1924, there are new elements still to watch for this time. New events include ski mountaineering and mixed team skeleton. Also for the first time, the official Olympic flame will be lit in not 1 but 2 cauldrons in Milan and Cortina. And while we've all seen this Minnesota-born athlete before, the 2026 Games will mark a grand return out of retirement. Skier Lindsey Vonn, now 41 years old, still looks back at her idol growing up.
I still remember being a 9-year-old and how impactful Picabo Street was to me in my life. And I have an amazing opportunity, just like Picabo was when I was on my first Olympic team. I was 17 and she was 30 and retiring. That was her last Olympics. And so this will be my last Olympics, and I'm meeting like girls like Allison, who I met when she was a kid at my book signing. You know, it's a very full circle moment.
We should also mention Vonn will be on the cover of Time magazine. She writes here in this caption, "I'm just a girl from Minnesota who wanted to ski fast, but this cover means I've done a lot more in my life than just ski fast." Back to you.
We'll certainly be cheering her on and all the other Minnesota athletes too. Stick with us. We have more news and weather coming up after the break.